Welcome to Global India, a cultural fusion podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lilly Padman. We have as our guest today an incredibly talented Indian-American youngster who has displayed a remarkable mastery of Indian classical music at a very young age. I'm delighted to introduce 16-year-old Navaneeth Unnikrishnan, a junior at Hamilton High School in Chandler, Arizona. Thank you, Navaneeth, for joining us on this podcast to address today's topic, Indian music from an Indian American perspective. We look forward to learning a lot about Indian music and its influence on the younger generation growing up in America. But first, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got interested in Indian classical music in general and Malayalam songs in particular?
Well, first off, I just want to express my appreciation to you, Dr. Lilly, for having me on this wonderful podcast. And to respond to your question first and foremost, essentially my background is the fact that I'm Indian American, but my parents, I was raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born here and I've been raised here my entire life in the States up until now, but my parents are from Kannur district in Kerala specifically, and they were born and they were raised there. So that's how my interest in Indian classical music and Malayalam songs, blossomed. It was primarily due to them. Otherwise, I would have never had the interest that I have now. And the way it developed specifically in both genres of music, both subgenres of music, was through the fact that when I was a little kid, I used to sit on my mom's lap and we used to listen to old cassettes and old CDs of great Indian classical music maestros like Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji or Pandit Shivakumar Sharma ji, or also great Malayalam film songs by the great Yeshudasa sir or Chitramma or Madhuri Amma and etc. And at the same time, I had another experience through whenever my dad would drive me to daycare or preschool or just any place, we would always hear Malayalam songs on the cassettes in the car, in the cassette inputs in the car. So that really helped me, blossom and develop my interest towards Malayalam songs in particular a lot as well. And the way I got interested in Indian Indian Shastriya Sangeet more specifically was through the fact that my parents had enrolled me in Indian classical music lessons from the very tender age of 4. So I've been learning Indian classical music ever since then, and it's been a great passion of mine ever since then as well.
An actual demo of your musical prowess is in order at this point. Can you please sing a couple of your favorite Malayalam songs to give our audience a flavor of your cachet?
Sure. I have so many different favorite Malayalam songs. If I haven't said it before, I have too many to count. But I will start with 2 of my favorite songs. First, I will sing Parijadam Tirumuri Turannu. പാരിജാതം തിരുമിഴി തുറന്നു പവിഴമുന്തിരി പൂത്തു വിടർന്നു നീലോൽപലമിഴി നീ മാത്രമെന്തിനുറങ്ങി മൂടൽ മഞ്ഞ് മുലക്കച്ച കിട്ടിയ മുത്തണിക്കുന്നിൻ താഴ്വരയിൽ നിത്യകാമുകി നിൽപ്പു ഞാനീ നിശാനി കുഞ്ചത്തിനരികിൽ എഴുന്നേൽക്കൂ സഖി എഴുന്നേൽക്കൂ ഏകാന്ത ജാലകം തുറക്കൂ പാരിജാതം തിരുമിഴി തുറന്നു പവിഴമുന്തിരി പൂത്തു വിടന്നു നീലോൽപലമിഴി നീലോൽപലമിഴി നീ മാത്രമെന്തിനുറങ്ങി? നിന്റെ സ്വപ്നമദാലസനിദ്രയിൽ നിന്നെ ഉണർത്തും ഗാനവുമായി വിശ്വമോഹിനി വിശ്വമോഹിനി നിൽപ്പു ഞാനീ വികാരസരസിൻ കരയിൽ. എഴുന്നേൽക്കൂ സഖി എഴുന്നേൽക്കൂ, ഏകാന്ത ജാലകം തുറക്കൂ. Now I will sing one of my other favorite songs, a legendary composition by the great M.G. Radhakrishnan sir, Surya Kireedam from the movie Devasuran. സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. പടുതിരിയാളും പ്രാണനിലേതോ നിഴലുകളാടുന്നു. നീറും സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. നെഞ്ചിലെ പിരിശങ്കിലേ തീർത്ഥമെല്ലാം വാർന്നു പോയി. നെഞ്ചിലെ പിരിശങ്കിലേ തീർത്ഥമെല്ലാം വാർന്നു പോയി. നാമജപാമൃതമന്ത്രം ചുണ്ടിൽ ക്ലാവ് പിടിക്കും സന്ധ്യാനേരം. സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. അഗ്നിയായി കരൾ നീരവേ മോക്ഷമാർഗം നീട്ടുമോ. അഗ്നിയായി കരൾ നീരവേ മോക്ഷമാർഗം നീട്ടുമോ. ഇഹ പരശാപം തീരാനം ഇനിയൊരു ജന്മം വീണ്ടും തരുമോ. സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. പടുതിരിയാളും പ്രാണനിലേതോ നിഴലുകളാടുന്നു. വീണ്ടും സൂര്യകിരീടം വീണുടഞ്ഞു രാവിൻ തിരുവരങ്ങിൽ. So I cannot resist myself here, but I cannot go further for this particular song without attempting to explain how beautiful the composition by M.G. Radhakrishnan sir is. It's based on the raga of Chenjiruti, and Chenjiruti it's a traditional Carnatic raga. Its most common raga in Hindustani is Chinjoti, and Chenjiruti specifically goes this way. pada sari gama pada nida sa sani nida pamagari sanida pada sa pada sari gama ga gama pa pada nida pada magari sa sari nida sari sanida pada sa. So it's one of the beautiful Padasa Surya Kiridam Venudanyu Pada Sarigamaga Ravin Tiruvarangil. So it's one of the, I love this song, and especially certain places like Nama Japamrida Mandram Chundil. Saga sarigama padani da pa magari gari. Even though it might go a little out of raga, it still almost feels like Chanjiruti. That's the most beautiful part of this. Klavu pidikum sandhya neram sarigama gari sanida pasa padasa da. Padasa is one of the more distinguishing features when you hear in a Kacheri Chanjiruti that makes it Chanjiruti from, say, other ragas like Harikamboji, which it is a janya of, or maybe Kamas or other ragas similar to Chanjiruti in that sense.
That is awesome. Do you understand the meaning of the lyrics? How do you get the emotional content of the lyrics reflected in your singing? Your flawless pronunciation of the words is in itself a significant achievement. How do you manage all these different aspects while having to focus on the tune and the rhythm?
Well, that's a great question, Dr. Lilly. So my personal dilemma is in the fact that even though I at least believe I can speak and understand Malayalam fluently, I don't know how my parents, I don't know how their opinion is of my Malayalam literacy, but I do believe I can understand it and speak it to an extent pretty decently. However, I cannot read and write it at all, even a tad bit. And the great blessing that I feel I've had, not only not personally or anything, but as a Malayali, is that I've been blessed to hear such great music from legends like Devaraja, Malayalam film music specifically, from Devaraja Master and Babaraj Master and Dakshamurti Swamigal and Raghava Master, all the way ranging to today's composers like, M.J. Chandan sir, my own Guruji, Pandit Ramesh Narayanji, the great Sharad sir and Vijibal sir, etc. A lot of Malayalam music places emphasis on lyrics specifically. And a lot of composers love to put ragas associated with the tone of the lyrics, the emotional tone of the lyrics, and view, especially looking at Devaraja Master for a song like Swargaputri Navaratri Swarnam Padichanin Swaramandapatile Sopana Gayaganaku Yenini. He uses the raga Mohanam, and Mohanam is a very, very pleasant raga. Sari ga pada sa sada pagari sa. When it's sung in Carnatic, it evokes a very pleasant mood as well. However, if we look at a great composer like Ause Pachan sir, he also uses a raga like Shubha Pantuvarali, but he uses it for a sad song. Yamuna Virudira Padunnu Yadavam Harimadhavam Hridayaganam. And Shubha Pantuvarali is a very, or Todi as it's known in Hindustani music, is a very, very, it evokes a feeling of sadness in listeners. Sargammadani sa So that's the genius of Malayalam film music as it goes, and its composers. They like to, add the right raga to the right lyrics, and that's how we get such beautiful creations. And I think that helps me in getting that helps me in at least understanding the emotional content of the lyrics, as well as having to focus on the tune and the rhythm, because the emotional content is often associated with the raga. And with my training in Indian classical music, I'm able to at least somewhat understand the raga and also focus on the tune and rhythm, so it helps me do that all simultaneously. And as well with the pronunciation of the words, that my parents and even grandma often help me with when I'm singing over songs. Whenever I sing something wrong, like I used to sing the word mara, I couldn't pronounce it correctly for the longest time, so my parents always had to correct me, but gradually I got through it. So it was always a learning process with pronunciation. I'm still improving a lot. I have a lot to learn on pronunciation, and hopefully I get all the better as time goes.
You have had training in both Hindustani and Carnatic music, both of which originated from the Vedic chants as far back as 6,000 years ago, evolving into a system of musical notes and rhythmic cycles as depicted in Bharata Muni's Natya-shastra. Hindustani music evolved into a distinct musical form under the Mughal rule with Arab and Persian influences, while Carnatic music, which was confined to the south of India, continued to maintain the traditional approach. From your perspective, what are the main differences and similarities you see between Hindustani and Carnatic music? How have they influenced Bollywood and Malayalam movie music? Maybe you can give us a demo of how Hindustani music has been incorporated into some of the Malayalam songs.
So from my perspective, the main differences and similarities that a listener would see between Hindustani and Carnatic music, well, it starts off with the fact that you wouldn't sing a Hindustani bandish or composition like a Carnatic kirtanam or kriti, and vice versa. You wouldn't sing a Carnatic kriti or kirtanam or varnam for that matter like a Hindustani bandish or sargam geet. Both are very different in that sense. But the main difference comes within the streams of classical music, with Hindustani classical music and Carnatic classical music, because Kalyani and Yaman in film songs, it's practically most of the same, because because film song at the end of the day is still light music, so it incorporates parts of both Yaman and Kalyani when it's using a song based on those specific notes, right? So for Hindustani, when you sing a Hindustani classical composition or bandish in Yaman, Eriyali peya bina sakhi eriyali peya bina sakhi eriyali peya bina. There is a much more difference, because in Hindustani there is the meend. So sa ni re ga ma da ni sa ni da pa ma re ga re ni re sa. But if you sing Carnatic Kalyani, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa vana jakshi roi veera amor vani vana jakshi. You can see that there's a clear difference between the Carnatic Varnam that I just sang now and the Hindustani composition, because in Carnatic both of them have tremendous emphasis on the raga in both forms of music, but in Carnatic there is much more gamagas. Vana sa 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 ni da ri sa ni da da pa ma ga ma pa da ni da ri sa ni da pa ma ga ma pa da ni sa vana jakshi. Meanwhile, in Hindustani, it's more of a meend where you glide from each note, and you still put emphasis on each note per se, but you glide from it. Ni re ga ma da ni sa. In Kalyani that gamagam on Rishabham in Carnatic you will not see on Rishabh in Hindustani. It's more of a mean when you go from Nishad to Rishabh in Hindustani. And the way both of them influenced both Bollywood and Malayalam movie music. With Bollywood, since it's based in North India, it had more Hindustani-based tunes, while with Malayalam movie music, since it's based in the South, it had more Carnatic tunes. But Hindustani music still had its own place in Malayalam songs with compositions like, especially with songs based on Rag Yaman, like Taliritta Kinakaltan താമരമാലവാങ്ങാൻ വിളിച്ചിട്ടും വരുന്നില്ല വിരുന്നുകാരൻ നിന്റെ വിരുന്നുകാരൻ. So that's one of the most beautiful compositions by Babaraj sir, and the emotion, Yaman is a very pleasant jaga like Bhupali is in Hindustani music. It evokes a romantic feel in a lot of listeners. In both classical music, light classical music or film music, it evokes that same emotion, and here Babaraj sir composed it beautifully. And another one of my favorite songs which has a Hindustani sort of influence in it is the song Devangadangal by the genius Johnson Master from the movie Nyan Gandharvan. ദേവാങ്കണങ്ങൾ കൈയൊഴിഞ്ഞ താരകം സായാഹ്ന സാനുവിൽ വിലോലമേഘമായി അഴകിൻ പവിഴം പൊഴിയും നിന്നിൽ അമൃതകണമായി സഖി ധന്യനായി ദേവാങ്കണങ്ങൾ കൈയൊഴിഞ്ഞ താരകം സായാഹ്ന സാനുവിൽ വിലോലമേഘമായി സല്ലാപമേറ്റുണർന്ന വാരിജങ്ങളും ശുഭരാഗരൂപിയ നവനീത ചന്ദ്രനും സല്ലാപമേറ്റുണർന്ന വാരിജങ്ങളും ശുഭരാഗരൂപിയ നവനീത ചന്ദ്രനും ചൈത്രവേണുവൂതും ചൈത്രവേണുവൂതും മധുമന്ത്രകോകിലങ്ങളും മേളമേകുമിന്ദ്രനീലരാത്രി തേടവേ ദേവാങ്കണങ്ങൾ കൈയൊഴിഞ്ഞ താരകം സായാഹ്ന സാനുവിൽ വിലോലമേഘമായി അഴകിൻ പവിഴം പൊഴിയും നിന്നിൽ അമൃതകണമായി സഖി ധന്യനായി ദേവാങ്കണങ്ങൾ കൈയൊഴിഞ്ഞ താരകം സായാഹ്ന സാനുവിൽ
Thank you, Navaneeth, for that beautiful demo and explanation. Now it is time to entertain our audience with some Hindustani music. I will leave it up to you to choose a piece from your vast repertoire.
Sure, I would love to sing a bandish based on the classical raga of Megh, a very traditional composition. Dare lage mohe damini ko. Om Shri Ananta Hari Narayana. डर लागे मोहे डामने को डर लागे मोहे डामने को सावन में कहिया वन को डर लागे मोहे डामने को सावन में कहिया वन को डर लागे मोहे डामने को चौंदिस गरजत बरसत आवे चौंदिस गरजत बरसत आवे पापी पपाया शोर मचाए पापी पपाया शोर मचाए मैं कौन जतन राखो मन को डर लागे मोहे डामने को सावन में कहिया वन को डर लागे मोहे डामने को डर लागे डर लागे डर लागे मोहे डामने को Now I will sing a classical film song, but based on the Hindustani raga of Hamir. It's composed by the great Naushad Ali sir and sung by the great Muhammad Rafi Saab. मधुबन में राधिका नाचे रे मधुबन में राधिका नाचे रे गिरधर की मुरलिया बाजे रे गिरधर की मुरलिया बाजे रे मधुबन में राधिका नाचे रे पग में घूंगर बांध के पग में घूंगर बांध के घूंघटा मुख पर दार के नैनन में कजर लगा के रे मधुबन में राधिका नाचे रे.
The versatility you have displayed, along with your ability to create a fusion of two distinct styles is truly amazing. I would like to complete this episode by bringing in another very distinct musical form, namely Western classical music, which is primarily based on harmony, unlike Indian classical music, which is primarily based on melody. I assume you've had training in Western classical music as well. From your perspective, what are the main differences and similarities between Indian and Western classical music?
So, Indian classical music and Western classical music both are beautiful streams and genres of music, but both are also incredibly different at the same time. So, the main ways in which Indian classical music is different from Western classical music is in the fact that in Western classical music, there are concepts like harmony, counterpoint, or polyphonic composition or texture, and composers like Ilayaraja who have used concepts like counterpoint in Indian film songs and even composed symphonies based off Indian classical music and incorporated the two streams of music, intertwining them beautifully. But they're different in that sense in which Indian classical music doesn't really have those concepts. And the Western classical music has chords. You say C major chord, D major chord, etc., right? But in Indian classical music, it's just the notes and the spaces itself.
Thank you, Navaneeth, for a highly entertaining and enlightening session on music. According to Bharata Muni, author of Natya Shastra, while entertainment is the desired effect of performance arts, it is not the primary goal. The primary goal is to transport the individual in the audience into another parallel reality, full of wonder, where he experiences the essence of his own consciousness and reflects on spiritual questions. This is echoed by the great poet and composer Rabindranath Tagore, who said, "For us, music has, above all, a transcendental significance. It disengages the spiritual from the happenings of life. It sings of the relationships of the human soul with the soul of things beyond. The world by day is like European music, a flowing concourse of vast harmony. And the night world is our Indian music, one pure, deep, and tender raga. They both stir us. Our music draws the listener away beyond the limits of everyday human joys and sorrows, while European music leads us to a variegated dance through the endless rise and fall of human grief and joy." A big thank you to our listeners as well. Hope you have enjoyed this episode, combining music with some talk. You can listen to more of Navaneeth's music on YouTube. We conclude this episode with a couple of my favorite Malayalam songs sung by Navaneeth.
Hridaya sarasile pranaya pushpame Hridaya sarasile pranaya pushpame ഇനിയും നിൻ കഥ പറയൂ ഹൃദയ സരസിലെ പ്രണയ പുഷ്പമേ ഇനിയും നിൻ കഥ പറയൂ അർത്ഥനിമീലിത മിഴികളിലൂറും അശ്രുബിന്ദുവിൻ സ്വപ്നബിന്ദുവോ ഹൃദയ സരസിലെ പ്രണയ പുഷ്പമേ ഇനിയും നിൻ കഥ പറയൂ നീ പറയൂ എഴുതാൻ വൈകിയ ചിത്രകഥയിലെ ഏഴഴകുള്ളൊരു നായിക നീ എഴുതാൻ വൈകിയ ചിത്രകഥയിലെ ഏഴഴകുള്ളൊരു നായിക നീ എന്നനുരാഗ തപോവന സീമയിൽ എന്നനുരാഗ തപോവന സീമയിൽ ഇന്നലെ വന്ന തപസ്വിനി നീ ഹൃദയ സരസിലെ പ്രണയ പുഷ്പമേ ഇനിയും നിൻ കഥ പറയൂ നീ പറയൂ. അനുരാഗിണി ഇതായൻ കരടിൽ വിരിഞ്ഞ പൂക്കൾ അനുരാഗിണി ഇതായൻ കരടിൽ വിരിഞ്ഞ പൂക്കൾ ഒരു രാഗമാലയായി ഇതു നിന്റെ ജീവനിൽ അണിയൂ അണിയൂ അഭിലാഷപൂ